And so you go out and you shoot, you get a lot of material. And just the way I work, or the way I know I work, is I end up shooting too much. I always shoot more than I need. And not that I do like innumerable takes, I just like I like my characters, so I just want to do more and more scenes with them, and I just want to fit everything in, like, oh, you gotta see them doing this, it's so important. And then you get to the editing stage and you realize, well, I guess you don't need to see them brushing their teeth or whatever. And so I think I worked that way. Like, I knew I had the core idea of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to write about, and I had the thesis. The thesis itself was pretty long. I had more than the page number I was allotted for the thesis, so it was already too long. And then once we started working, we worked for about a year or 2 years, and I think it got up to, I think at one point you had like 2,000 pages.
I mean, is it okay if we talk about this?
Yeah.
So the thesis was, I believe, 300 pages, and
only because they had a cut.
That was like the limit. And then, let's say, I don't know, a year later, we talk, and you're like, oh, there's even more, and the thing I get is about 700 pages. And then over the course of the next, 6 months to a year, periodically you would send me these files so big that they didn't crash my computer, but I'm like, I don't know how to download this.
I just sent like 6 emails.
You'd like chop it up.
Yeah.
And literally, I think it's safe to say there were literally, at one point, thousands of pages that...
Did you even read all?
I did.
Because I also know that I'm like I think I'm a collage artist. I'm very drawn to collage, and this book, is very collagey, but where I was going at the end was like really collagey. And so that's why I depend on editors. I depend on my film editors, and I depend on you a lot to just say, okay, what you're going for is already there, with this material. Like, where you're going now is somewhere else. Like, you know what I mean?
I think what I realized is, there are books that you read that kind of teach you how to read them, especially like David Marks was an example, experimental stuff. And once you get it, you kind of know how to read it and you enjoy it. And this book, far more than any other book that I worked on, it taught me how to edit it. It was almost like you were giving me clues about what it should be. I mean, the title itself, first of all, is an extremely strong title, and you had this preface which talked about, this fictitious organization of Actors Anonymous, and so that was kind of like the linchpin, right? That's going to be the through line. I remember, so in the ocean of material that you wrote and that you sent to me, I remember some kind of mind-bending stuff, like this whole sequence that was, and you can elaborate on this, almost like a cover version of House of Leaves, of Mark Z. Danielewski's House of Leaves, where sometimes there would just be like a letter in the middle of the page. Does that ring a bell? Yeah.
That was, that was a big part of the 2,000 pages. It was just this book that I wrote. I had this great professor at UCLA named Catherine Hales, who's one of the pioneers of digital literature and just scholarship of digital literature and experimental literature. And she's a good friend of this writer, Mark Danielewski, and she introduced me to this book, House of Leaves. And so, and she allowed us to do a creative final project. And so my project was a take on that book, House of Leaves, where he uses text in kind of pictorial ways, or almost in cinematic ways, where sometimes, like in a very dramatic moment, the text, there'll be fewer and fewer lines and then words and then maybe just a single word on a page. And it almost functions like slow motion in a film, where it's like, okay, you're only now getting like one word a page. And then sometimes the words will be, it sounds kind of gimmicky, but the way he does it is very infectious. And so sometimes, you know, at the center of the book is an actual labyrinth that the characters go into, and then the text starts to take on the shapes of a labyrinth and stuff like that. So I did a piece that was inspired by that. I think, and I just sent it to you. Just, I mean, I think to me it's more. It became more. My mother had, and then I actually printed it out. So there's actually a codex version of that that my mother, I hope, kept. I think it's more of like an art object that, you know, if people still care about me in like 50 years, they can go back and look at it and say, oh, there's the thing. Because there's actually, it's like, it got physical. Like it was called HOL instead of House of Leaves, and then there was an actual hole, like HOL hole. So then a hole in the pages. You didn't get all that, but there's a physical hole.
So just I mean, I would say it's interesting when you say his style is in fact